Hello everyone. I hope you can see my presentation. I'm Varsha Mathew and I'm currently pursuing economics at St. Stephen's College, and I'm going to be presenting my research on the blue economy accounting frameworks while focusing on sectoral analysis, methodology comparisons, and some of the expected outcomes today. So as we all know, blue economy in the UDA refers to the use of ocean resources for economic growth, and blue economy accounting is a system that measures the economic, social, and environmental aspects of ocean-related activities with the goal of pursuing sustainable development. So my research objectives that I have been tasked with is to compare and assess leading blue economy accounting frameworks to analyze certain sectoral impacts. This is in the economic and social sectoral domains as well. Lastly, hopefully, to create our own framework or structure after identifying some of the drawbacks in maritime policymaking after referencing to more successful international methodologies. So moving on, I chose two frameworks arbitrarily, but I chose them because they were more all-encompassing and relevant than the others. So um, two international frameworks that I chose was our generic SDG Life 14 Life Below Water and the OECD Sustainable Developmental Framework. For a quick brief on some of the insights on how each of the methodology works, SDG 14 uses a target indicator monitoring system. There are 10 targets, and attaining this target is measured by 10 respective indicators. Just to give an example, the first target is reducing marine pollution, and the indicators to assess this are the Coastal Eutrophication Index, which measures the potential for nutrient enrichment in coastal waters, and floating plastic debris intensity. Now, the OECD Sustainable Developmental Framework is more economical and finance based with good social and environmental survey background, but it's used more or less as guidance for government agencies to use when making their own frameworks and policies related to the maritime sectors. Now, both the international frameworks I've chosen can act as good frameworks for comparison or study when referring to our own specific maritime policy, as they're very structurally sound and exist to direct international cooperation towards sustainable development efforts. Now, for India, I chose two projects. One is the Sagarmala program, and the other is the Draft Blue Economy that was released by the Ministry of Earth Sciences in 2021. Now, in my comparative matrix, I have these two projects haven't been finalized and are currently in the process of being prepared, or but their progress is covered in the public domain. And using our international methodologies, I have sort of made a comparative matrix where we sort of analyze the targets in these methodologies and compare them to the Indian projects and analyze the drawbacks. Using this, we can sort of compare the drawbacks, compare the gaps in Indian policy and Indian maritime policy. So moving on, some of the gaps that I have actually found in my comparative matrix while making it are very technical. Since all of the methodologies that are being spoken about here are very distinct, there is no unified method for evaluating them across ESG metrics. So this complicates our comparative conclusion to a certain extent. Some of the things that I've also noted is that a lot of these sector-specific frameworks, case in point, the Sagarmala program, don't have strong ESG indicators. And by ESG indicators, I mean some environmental indicators such as marine biodiversity, emissions, or natural capital are not uniformly quantified. Ecological evaluation tools are missing, especially in infrastructure projects, case in point, Sagarmala program. And environmental and social indicators are potentially ignored in these programs and frameworks as well. To continue on with this point, there is a lack of sectoral coverage, and by sectoral coverage, I mean different induced and indirect impacts or aspects haven't been covered in the evaluation. In a lot of economic frameworks, the social metric is also very much lacking. A lot of these policies don't engage in community consultation most of the time and don't include social impact valuation as a part of their assessment. Moving on to the second part of my project is what I'm currently doing and what I'm currently working on, and that is a sectoral evaluation. The 5 sectors that I've chosen are the fisheries and aquaculture, shipping and ports, offshore energy, coastal tourism, and marine biotechnology, as these are the five major areas when it comes to blue economy accounting and blue economy in general. So when I'm doing this, I'm looking at sources, looking at broad data from official sources such as the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy, Ministry of Ports, the World Bank Blue Economy reports, etc. Over here, there are some major gaps and insights, but I believe over time, with a little bit of work, these can be covered as well. So I'm just going to be discussing some of these gaps. There is really high economic performance when it comes to fisheries and aquaculture, but there is a definite lack of ecological valuation within these economic metrics, as they don't take into account like um, fish stock evaluation depletion or loss in marine diversities. In most of these sectors, if I'm being honest, a lot of social impact data that has been found hasn't been disaggregated properly. A direct indicator of employment as a social metric will lack the assessment of other social issues like gender equity. In creation of ports and offshore energy specifically, environmental costs are not usually taken into account as they aren't that easily quantifiable. Effects and losses from oil spills, carbon footprint, underwater noise impact all have to be assessed within our relevant frameworks, and from the data that I've analyzed, they usually are not. Now, a problem with offshore energy, especially within the Indian context, is up to this point there's negligible data. As far as I'm aware, India does not have any operational offshore renewables. So comparing this with international frameworks when it doesn't really exist also becomes a problem. Again, tourism also gleans many of the socio-political and environmental issues, just like the rest of them. Moving on, I'm going to be talking about a case study that I've been doing. This is my current focus at the time. So I took this on because I believe case studies are crucial tools for both coastal community understanding and underwater domain awareness, because they translate these abstract concepts that we're studying into local real world relevance. So I've specifically been researching a fishing community in the coastal region of Alapura, Kerala, and I've been like mostly making economic maps and zones of their livelihood and their income patterns and seasonal variations. I've been taking interviews with them and documenting their way of living and some of the challenges that they faced. Moving on, I'll be sort of speaking to certain governments and institutions that represent them to see where the gaps lie when it comes to the policies that we speak about and their contribution towards blue economy and um, other similar things that run in parallel to my work. In fact, all of the pictures that I've used in this presentation as well are they also come from this field work or field report that I've been doing, and are a good example of how how blue economy UDA awareness are really important when it comes to real world concepts and real world relevance. So let's move on to the plan ahead from now. So after this, we're going to be furthering my research project, and and to do that, we'll be deepening the sectoral ESG evaluation. And for that, we'll be making templates of each matrix, and we can standardize the evaluation approach. To do this, we can assign proxy indicators like economic indicators. Economic indicators can include blue GDP, revenue, trade, and maybe some social indicators like job, equity, and livelihood to standardize our evaluation. As I'd already spoken about before, in my comparative matrix, there were gaps when it comes to standardization. Once the sectoral evaluation is done, classification of a system linking Indian maritime sectors to the targets and indicators of internationally sound frameworks becomes easy, and that will be our taxonomic development. And the last step to my research project would be providing intuitive suggestions on Indian policy related to the maritime sector. And for this, I was thinking we could take inspiration from other sustainable production success stories from around the world. And hopefully, by the end of this project, we can come up with a comprehensive framework that can be suited to the Indian context but globally benchmarked. Globally benchmarked. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation. And while studying the Blue Economy Accounting Framework, I found that it tells us what's at stake, but UDA tells us what's happening, and together, I believe they can enable sustainable, secure, and data-driven ocean development. Thank you so much for your time.